Hello and welcome. In the 43rd ODI match at the World Cup, Bangladesh set a 307 run target for Australia, scoring 306 of 8 in 50 overs. Mitchell Marsh hit his second World Cup and third ODI century. David Warner was caught by Mashfiqur Rahim and Travis Head was bowled by Taskin Ahmed. Tawheed Hridoy scored 74 runs with contributions from Nazmul Hussain, Shanto Littendas, Tanjeet Hassan and Mohammadullah Riyad for 32. Australia's Sean Abbott and Adam Zampa took 2 wickets each and Marcus Stoinis got 1. 3 Bangladeshi players were run out. In the parallel 44th match at Eden Gardens today, England opting to bat against Pakistan saw Joe Root completing his third 50 in the current World Cup, crossing 1,000 runs. Ben Stokes was 84, was bowled by Shaheen Shah Afridi, forming a 132-run partnership with Root. Johnny Bairstow was caught by Salman Ali Agha and David Malan, 31, was caught by Mohammad Rizwan. Bairstow's innings marked his second 50 in the current World Cup and his ODI career, totaling 215 runs in 9 matches at an average of 23.88. Well, to get a grasp of everything, we are joined by 2 interesting guests right now. One is Paul Dennett, who's been our companion, our critic, and someone who understands the intricacies of cricket very closely from Australia. We also have Paul. Apart from Paul, we are joined by Newell David, the former Indian player, one of the most remarkable fielders of the game in the 90s, who joins us. And welcome to the show, Paul. Paul, how do we begin describing Australia's inning, Paul?
G'day, Sunil. Pretty professional. It's kind of gone exactly to the script for the Aussies. Mitchell Marsh has been superb, which has been a welcome return to form. He missed a game because of bereavement in the family and played a fairly ordinary knock against New Zealand. So he has really resumed in the way that he'd started the World Cup. A nice little innings from Steve Smith that he's chipped in as well. And basically, the Australians have just outclassed Bangladesh today. Well,
Australia may have certainly outclassed, but there have been few missed chances in the innings as well. What do you have to talk about today's game, where there were chances missed not only here but also in the Pakistan game?
Well, I've only been watching the Australian game. My bandwidth is I'm no longer clever enough to watch 2 screens at once. I'd get all confused. So certainly in the Australian game, the Australian fielding has been superior to Bangladesh's. It's been interesting hearing the commentators talking about the 2 runouts that Marnus Labuschagne affected, and the fact that, as we mentioned when we spoke last time, that there's a real battle for selection between Marnus Labuschagne and Marcus Stoinis for the semi-final. And it seems as though in the previous game, had Steve Smith not succumbed to vertigo, in which case it sort of made the debate moot, that actually Marcus Stoinis was going to be in the 11 and Marnus Labuschagne was going to be omitted. And I think that's a mistake. I think that going into the semi-final, I much prefer Labuschagne than Stoinis. Stoinis is a very fine player, but his bowling got a fair bit of tap from the Bangladeshis tonight. And I think that Labuschagne's a more reliable batter. But certainly, the Australian fielding, traditionally has been very strong, and it continues to be.
Well, we welcome Newell David to the show. Newell, you've been one of the most remarkable fielders in the scene. What do you feel about the overall situation when you see the catches are being missed? And in the last 8 matches, there have been around 14 odd catches that were sitters that were missed. Your views?
Yeah, you see, the fielding standard, especially, I'll take you back to the 20s. After the 2020 invasion into cricket, the fielding standard has been set very high, okay? And they're continuing doing. As a fielder, I can say that catches can be dropped.
Yes.
But the team has to come back. Even if they drop the catch, the team needs to come back and forget about what has happened on the field and get back to the game. And yes, there may be the due factor coming into the ball where it can slip out of your hands, or maybe wrong positioning where you tend to drop the catch. All this fact comes into fielding aspects. But I feel overall some catches were brilliantly taken by all the teams. There were some outstanding catches. Let's forget about the drop catches because that is going to happen.
Yes.
Without drop catches, no team can go into the field. The best of the fielders can drop a catch. The best of the fielders, but this is part and parcel of the game. But how you bounce back after the catch is
certainly
important.
Certainly, Neil. I'll go on to David. David, Pakistan seems to be sloppy on the field as well, but your English side made a remarkable recovery. You want to just talk about the batting and some of the big names getting 50s?
Well, yes. England 50s have been as rare in this tournament as England victories. And we've seen all the top order, when the pressure is off, able to demonstrate what they're capable of. The problem is they didn't do it when the pressure was on. And the place in the semi-finals has long since gone. So I hope that the administrators don't hide behind this late revival in England's fortunes, because it doesn't disguise the fact that when it was needed, those England batters, the possible exception of David Malan and Ben Stokes, had not really performed. And so no consolation, really, crumbs of consolation, shall we say, today.
Well, absolutely, crumbs of consolation. One another very disturbing news emerging from the cricket administrators at ICC, that they're they're shortening the 50-over game into a T20 tournament next year. Is there any truth to it, David? David Brooks. David, unfortunately, is not with us. Paul, do you have any inputs on that particular information about the game getting shortened from a 50-over match, Champions Trophy, next year?
It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. The Champions Trophy is slated for 2025, and I could certainly see there'd be a push to say, let's consider making that a T20 tournament, because, as we discussed on the show when I've been before, that Mark Nicholas, the new president of the MCC, has said that he thinks that outside of the World Cup there shouldn't be any 50-over cricket, and that is the way that the world's going. And I mean, there's been a lot of nostalgia in recent weeks of saying, look at the innings that Glenn Maxwell played. You'll never get an innings like that in T20 cricket because you just don't have the time. And I completely agree with that. But I just do think that it's very hard for a sport to survive at the top level with two formats, let alone three. And the one that is feeling the squeeze is the one-day game. So I think that we are going to see a lot less one-day cricket in the years to come.
Well, Neil, David, you've excelled in the ODIs and the 50-over format. Would you see something like this? Of course, we've got David Brooks as well. We'll join him later. But do you see the shortening of ODI format for the sake of T20? Your views, Neil?
Sad. If this happens, it's sad because, as Paul rightly said, they are trying to squeeze in, and rightly. And secondly, the 2020 has become more hyped game in the world. So I think the ICC must be thinking, if we implement the Champions Trophy as I see 2020, maybe they will pull in the crowd, and because what I see for the World Cup, the crowd was very less. It was a bit of failure, but looking into all these factors, I think ICC has taken a decision. Yeah, we should welcome it. We should give it a try and see how it goes. ICC, I think. So let's hope and see if this clicks also. I think it will, but let's keep our fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Let's keep our fingers crossed. We go back to our guest in the studio, Taslim Granger. What do we have the latest when it comes to the scorecard and the notable performance right now?
So we got two games underway. Good evening to you all. Firstly, we've got Bangladesh, Australia. Australia just finding themselves needing 24 runs just from 49 balls. Still looking comfortable. They still have Mitch Marsh at the crease. Steve Smith's just crossed the 50 mark for the first time. And, I say the first time in the sense that we see him, then we don't see him, then we forget he's even part of the squad again. So it's a great time for him to come to the show, especially with them finding themselves in the semi-finals and most probably facing South Africa. So they currently need 23 runs in 48 balls. On the other side, You have England cruising. They're currently at 326 for the loss of 7, having just lost Moeen Ali about 4 balls ago. But nevertheless, Wiley is out here. David Wiley is out here doing the most. He's scored about 16 runs since he's come to the crease. And he's not taking any time to see the ball or do anything of that sort. Mind you, this is the last over of the game.
Well, one interesting fact that has come to our notice is resurgence of Adam Zampa and the leg break. Well, Paul, he seemed to be now just quietly coming up in the tables tally, and he's at perhaps number 1, Tasmin. He's the number 1 bowler at the World Cup right now, and he's got some brilliant performance. Versus Sri Lanka was 47 for 4. Immediately after that, Pakistan 53 for 4, Netherlands 8 for 4, and New Zealand 74 for 3. England was not bad either at 21 for 3. So what has made that his mojo is back? Has he started pitching the ball little up in the air, or has he started giving a little rip? Or what is it that is clicking in Adam Zampa's poll in the last 5 games?
Well, the other thing that he's done in this tournament is he's now taken more wickets in a World Cup than any Australian has in the past. He's gone past Shane Warne, I think, in this tournament. So I just think he started to return to his best. We mentioned the other day that he'd been suffering some back spasms. He swam into the side of the pool. He was a bit injured. And I think in those first 2 games, he was playing a little bit hurt. He then completely recovered from those injuries, or recovered enough such that he could bowl really well. And I think it's just the true Adam Zampa that has now come to the fore. But if Australia do go on to win the World Cup, then I think that everyone will agree that it's been Adam Zampa who has been the linchpin, because the quick bowling has been okay at times. I mean, Josh Hazlewood probably exemplified that today. I think 7 overs for 21 runs, very economical, but they haven't been taking bagfuls of wickets. And, you know, you're looking at trying to get breakthroughs early on. The Australian fast bowlers have not been able to do that. Compare that to the Indians, and I think that's one of the big concerns if Australia, and I'm parlaying this forward a long way because I'm not discounting South Africa at all, but if Australia do get to play in the final and happens to be against India, then I'm going to be very, very nervous as Bumrah and Shami bowl to our opening batters. I don't think Indian fans will feel as nervous when Stark and Hazlewood and Cummins are bowling to their opening batters.
Well, absolutely. Are you comfortably sleeping tonight? Because Australia has just made it in the semi-final. You've got the top 4 teams in the house. You're not facing India in the semi-final. Are you relieved about that?
Very relieved, yes. I'm very, very happy to have come third. Again, I wouldn't be at all surprised if South Africa beat Australia, and I'll be very disappointed about that, because until the last World Cup, Australia had never lost a semi-final of the World Cup, and it was a very proud record. I think the last World Cup was our 8th semi-final and the first one that we'd ever lost.
Yes.
So it'll be particularly disappointing if we lose to South Africa this time round. I hope that we can beat South Africa and then have some sort of luck in the final. If we're playing India, maybe get the better of conditions, because I think that if we played India 10 times in the final, they'd probably beat us about 7.
Well, that's a good thing for the Indian fans. Well, before we wrap up, I would like to ask Noel David. Noel, which has been your most your memorable moment of this World Cup thus far? Although it's still few games away, but what has been your favorite moment of the World Cup, or is it too early to ask?
No, it's no. I can say the Australian and I think the Pakistan game, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken. It was so intense, so till the last moment, no one could predict what's going to happen. And Maxwell's inning, what a game, what an inning that was. I think he had a mixture of everything in that. You take baseball, you take golf,
Tennis.
you take tennis and cricket. Everything was mixed in his shots. The way he has played, I think hats off to him. And he has showed that, anything is possible at any time with the bat.
Well, that's Noel David, one of the best fielders in the modern day game. Tasmin, you have an update right now before we wrap up the show? She's just pointed out quickly, Tasmin, what is the update?
Yeah, definitely. So Mohamed Wasim looking to take his hat-trick right now in the last over, in the 50th over. He's just taken 2 wickets quickly. He's taken David Wiley and he's taken He's just taken Atkinson as well, and he's got one ball left, hoping to get a hat-trick. England are on 336 for 9 with one ball left in the innings.
Well, if that's a hat-trick, this is one of the late start for Pakistan. But, well, that's all we had time for. We can thank our guest, Paul, for joining us from Australia, Noel David and David Brooks earlier in the day, and Tasneem Granger, our in-house guest. Well, keep watching NewsX. We'll be back after a short commercial break.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.